This week, we had two major updates coming for international students in Australia. In this video, we are going to discuss them. Let's start with the first one, which is regarding student cap numbers. So the government announced new cap numbers for the year 2026. As you know, the government announced these caps or national planning levels for the year 2025, and they allocated the numbers for both higher education providers, including universities, and vocational education providers. And the number was 270,000 places that was split between higher education providers and vocational education providers. So higher education providers got 176,000 places and 94,000 went for vocational education providers. Now the government has announced that they will be increasing this number to 295,000 for the year 2026. Now interestingly, higher education providers including universities will get a bigger chunk of these numbers. They will get 196,750 places, leaving the rest for the vocational education providers. And interestingly, public universities in Australia can apply for further increase in the allocations for the year 2026 as well, as long as they meet couple of requirements given by the government. The first one is to do with the student accommodation, which is if they can increase the accommodation for both domestic and international students, they can apply for increase in the allocations. Second one is regarding Southeast Asia engagement. If public universities are engaging more with Southeast Asia, they can apply for increase in allocations as well. At the moment, it's not defined what that engagement means. Does that mean they need to open their campuses in Southeast Asian countries or some other measures? We're not sure about that yet. But certainly government is giving a chance to public universities to increase the allocations if they meet these two requirements. While this is certainly a positive news that there are more international students government is willing to take for the next year, it still remains 8% below the post-COVID peak that we saw once the borders were reopened after the COVID pandemic. And in the announcement, the government also promised that all current education providers will receive a minimum of their current allocation levels. Means there will be no reduction in numbers for these education providers. Now, why this even matters? Well, international education is a huge export for Australia. It is considered to be worth more than $50 billion to Australian economy, and it supports more than 250,000 Australian jobs. And this is one of those exports that does not include any mining or drilling. And governments see international education as a part of their soft diplomacy. So those students who come here for studies and once they return back to their home countries, and that helps Australia to build good relationship with those countries where the students were coming from. In the announcement, they talked about student visa processing as well, that the current strategic cohort of students from Pacific and Timor-Leste and those holding Australian government scholarships will be prioritized for their student visa processing. Now, there were some exemptions for these national planning levels or caps in the previous year. Now they have added few more groups that will be exempt from the year 2026 onwards. And that includes students who are transitioning from senior secondary schools to public universities, and those students who are transitioning from our pathway providers or TAFE to public university as well. These groups will be exempt from the cap, means they won't be counted in the cap. Ministerial Direction 111, which is currently in place, will continue to dictate the student visa processing. Now, the Ministerial Direction 111 divides the student visa processing in two priorities. Priority number one will be students when your education provider has not met 80% of their allocated numbers. So if education provider hasn't met the 80% allocations of their numbers for the year, they will be in priority one, which is faster processing. And once they have met this 80% threshold, for the rest of the 20% onwards, that will be in a standard lane, which could mean a slower visa processing as well. Now, government is also proposing to introduce Australian Tertiary Education Commission from the year 2027 that will manage these allocations from the year 2027, obviously pending the Parliament approval. It was also mentioned in the announcement that the vocational education sector will be shaped by new visa and integrity measures. To be honest, vocational education sector has been decimated by these changes. It is being reported that the vocational education numbers are down up to 75% from the previous years. And that certainly does not help the vocational education sector at all. I myself work in the vocational education sector. Recently, one of the colleges that I work for has shut down. And the sad part was that college was actually quite decent, the way they operated, their education, and the students in general. But because of these huge changes, they couldn't couldn't enroll many students, and that led to the closure of the college. Unfortunately, many other vocational education providers are in a similar boat as well. So while the numbers for the higher education does seem to be promising, it's not the same case for vocational education sector. And while I'm still working at one of the colleges, I certainly felt the pain of losing one of the jobs. So that was the first major change. Let's move to the second one now, which is regarding the English test requirements. Government has introduced the Migration Instrument 2025, which replaces the previous version, which was the Migration Regulation 1994. In this instrument, there are few changes that you need to be mindful of. One of that is regarding the addition of some new English tests for Australian visas. And this change has already come into effect from the 7th of August 2025. So by the time you're watching this video, it has already been implemented. In the past, there were 5 major tests that students can take for Australian visas. That included Cambridge English, IELTS, PTE Academic, OET Occupational English Test, and TOEFL IBT. And now they have introduced few more in addition to this. That includes Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program General, which is CELPIP General, Language Cert Academic Test, Michigan English Test, which is MET, including single section retake, which is SSR. These are in addition to already existing tests. Now the major change is in regards to English test scores. As you know, students can have a different level of English when they are planning to apply for student visas or other visas. That includes functional, vocational, competent, proficient, and superior English. And they have given us an updated table, which is for vocational, competent, proficient, and for superior level. And as you can see in this table, they have given score for each and every proficiency level for every single test that you can take from the 7th of August onwards. There are a few changes you would notice, and one of the key one is regarding the PTE academic here. While IELTS scores remains pretty much like a gold standard for each of these proficiency levels, PTE academic has been modified. And we're talking specifically about PTE academic because a lot of students take PTE academic for the Australian student visas or other type of visas for Australia. And IELTS is definitely another popular English exam, but there's no change to their proficiency levels and the scoring. So looking at PTE academic specifically, you see in vocational, for listening we need 33, reading we need 36, writing we need 29, and speaking we need 24. That's equivalent of 5 in IELTS test. Moving to competent level, that means 6 in IELTS, but in PTE academic for listening you need 47, for reading 48, for writing you need 51, and for speaking you need 54. For proficiency level, which is 7 for IELTS. Now for PTE you need 58 for listening, for reading you need 59, for writing you need 69, and for speaking you need 76. So you can clearly see changes over there. And wait until we reach the next level, which is superior level. That is equivalent to 8 in IELTS test. In PTE academic you need 69 for listening, for reading you need 70, for writing you need 85, and for speaking you need 88. Wow, that's certainly a lot of scores you need to get in order to score that proficient level, especially in PTE academic. OET test scores has also been updated. You get scores now in numericals instead of alphabets. The good thing is that if you have taken the test already, there is a provision for those students in this new instrument. Now there is some relief for the students who have already taken this English test before 7th of August. They're still okay as long as they meet the previous test score requirements. So these were some huge changes that has come in this week. And again, we consider that student enrollment cap a positive move by the government, but English test scores will be something interesting that we might have to look at. But I hope you find this update useful. Please let us know about your thoughts regarding this in the comment section below as well. And if you find this information useful, make sure to share it with your friends as well. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.